Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody, or those of you who will yet come and are watching this on the replay right now. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And once again, it's time to come live from the Critical Blast Caverns and talk with the people who are out there making the comics that we love to read every week. Tonight, we have some guys that are local to me, although I've never shook their hand, but we all share the one magic thing in common that brings us all together, and that's the most unappreciated person of all, the local comic shop guy. So this is out there for Dave Dyer at Cosmic Comics and Belleville.com, who told me that I needed to check out this book called Butcher Queen, and this one is Planet of the Dead. This is from these fine gentlemen here, Jim Ousley. Am I saying that correctly?
Ousley or Ousley. I've heard every pronunciation. So,
well, if I say
Ousley,
Jim Ousley,
Ousley's
it might turn into Christopher Priest at some point in your career. So, because he was Jim Ousley, and then he became Christopher Priest.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah,
so I did not know that.
Well, he's Jim Ousley's still out there creating comic books. He's just changed his name.
That's so funny. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was in a band. I changed my name to Thorn Gabriel for a while because I thought that'd be a cool.
No way.
I did, yeah.
And the guy in the bottom square here is Ben Sawyer. He's the guy who pushes the pencils on the thing, right?
Amongst many other things, yes.
Or is it the mouse cursor these days?
These days, yeah, it's all digital.
So the name of the book is Butcher Queen, and I told Jim before the show started here that I've read this book. I'm still wrapping my brain around a lot of the stuff. I have not seen a character or a spaceship yet named Butcher Queen. So the first thing I'm going to ask about is where you guys came up with the title for this.
The title came from, it was one of those things where we began working on the story together. It started as a short story for a local anthology with Ink and Drink Comics. And I always like, titles that have a ring to it. They sort of sound euphonious and are really easy on the tongue, And so I don't know how it happened, but in the original story, we found out that Sid makes a really big mistake. She's a cop. She goes way over the line, and she basically becomes the very thing that she would sort of arrest and investigate and everything else. And so this whole series that we do now is her making the journey back to that and kind of regaining her humanity. But I just kind of thought of the name Butcher Queen, and it was like, wow, that'd be a really cool name. And I asked Ben about it, to see if he would like it because we're co-creators, and so he has to sign off on it. And he liked it, and we just kind of went with that. But the title Butcher Queen, she's never referred to as that in the book. But it was a nickname. If you read the first series, it was a first nickname or an initial nickname that her fellow detectives and officers gave her after she made her mistake, after she did what she did. And so it's kind of stuck with her. And she wants to lose that nickname. She wants to get back to being the good person that she was, essentially. So that's the long version of where that name came from.
You can get a full breakdown on why she's called that and the events that we're talking about in the trade that came out a couple weeks ago or a week ago, yeah. So the first trade came out and we threw in a bunch of the old stories to give her backstory, and then her best friend Rags, we got his backstory in there too. So the story's out there, but if you started reading on Planet of the Dead, then yeah, you don't quite know. So yeah, you're picking up on the second season.
Yeah. It's, I've come into the second season of mini shows before and thought, what? That I didn't have that really big of a problem getting into this. So you guys did a good job of making it accessible for a new reader.
Thanks.
But I would like to go back and catch up on what I kind of missed and see how this team of people came together.
I'm going to send you some stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'll be glad to take a look at that.
For everybody else, Red 5 makes the trade really affordable. What is it, like $13, $14, something like that? For
it's
the trade?
Yeah, $13. Yeah.
It's like 160 pages or something crazy.
Yeah.
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 Now, this all came about through a Kickstarter last year. Had you guys done any comic book work before this Kickstarter?
Yeah.
We did actually, yeah. Going back a little bit, Ben and I met for the first time at Eat and Drink Comics. My dog is trying to get in on the interview. Amazing. We kind of hooked up there and began collaborating, and then we decided to release our own anthology called The Dead Palace, which was kind of a horror anthology, kind of an old school horror anthology. And one of the stories was Butcher Queen. And when we finally met with Red 5, they got a hold of The Dead Palace through Ben. And they asked us if there was a story in the book that we would want to make a series. And we did. It was Butcher Queen. We chose that one. And it's been a lot of fun ever since, working with them and exploring that whole world.
Yeah, it's a bit of a artist sort of dream scenario, right? You take your book to San Diego Comic-Con, yes, and a publisher grabs it and they go, "Oh wow, we really want to work with you guys," and that's exactly what happened. So Red 5 being a little on the up and coming side, we decided to reach out and do a Kickstarter to help fund the whole process. So, and
it took off really well. So it has to be you had to have been well received by the people who saw what you put out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you surprised at all? I mean, I don't know what your goal was on it, but I know you met it. So
we're surprised every time we reach our goal, to be honest. Which is strange because this is like our third Kickstarter. So one of these days it won't be quite so surprising. But no, it is nice to hear that Red 5 says that we're one of the better selling books under their flag. So that feels good. They said we did really good numbers with the trade, and pre-order numbers for Planet of the Dead were really great. So yeah, onward and upward. Every bit of news has been good. So
it's the kind of thing where we're not famous guys. So whenever we put something out and people enjoy it, it's very gratifying because we work so hard on this. And so whenever, like I think the first issue of the last series sold out, and that blew us away. And so every time it happens, it's sort of like, okay, people are reading this and enjoying this. Let's try to really blow them away again next time. And that's what we're trying to do with this new series.
Yeah.
Well, let's show off some of the artwork here and see if I can pull this off. I've never shared a Facebook page before, so where should I recommend I should go?
Anything that jumps out at you. There's a lot of duplicates, but no, that's the cover for the first book.
That's the version A that Ben did there.
Yeah, and it's actually a collection. So each one that I did, this is the Tim Bradstreet variant, but every cover that I did actually connects to the previous cover. So after you've collected all four, it'll make a big.
Oh, I see. So this is the first piece of a.
Yeah.
Like a puzzle.
Yeah. Do we have? I can go to our Facebook. Do we have the cover for book 2 on our Facebook?
I think we have the Previews World link. I'm not sure if we had the actual picture or not.
Okay.
Yeah, this might.
We can tell you it's a great cover.
If you could see it, you would love it.
Yeah.
that cover looks familiar. It's this is the one.
That's the one you've got. That's right.
They just slapped it in my hand and said, "You want this?"
Wow, gotta love that.
Nice.
And when he said that,
Dave is awesome.
I take his word for it. If you guys want to share the Facebook page, you probably know where things are faster than I would, because I just pulled it up right as we started here. That's the kind of preparation I do.
I mean, I can share some stuff as well, I suppose.
Sure.
We'll
let you put up what you want to put up.
Okay, let's see. Is it going to give me an option here? Okay, so in the interest of not sharing crucial information, I will share my second screen here. Okay, so all right, so here's the Butcher Queen folder. All right, so Butcher Queen Series 2. I'll just show all 4 covers. So by the time you've collected all 4 covers, it's going to look like this. So
nice.
That's the cover you've seen. And then up here is the cover for number 2. And then this is going to be number 3 down here. And then this is number 4. And I think number 4 just went to Previews World, actually. So all of this content is out there. But if you buy all 4, they make this sort of fashion. Now, when you do buy all 4, you're going to see the the title 4 times and our name 4 times in red, but I've arranged it so that they're all in the middle. And so each title will be on the planet, which is actually a dried up version of Earth, by the way, which is a bit of a factoid in the storyline there. But
it's an apocalyptic world. And, well, you can always come back with virgin covers.
Sure. Yeah,
that's true.
Some people like those. I'm not crazy. I like to know what book I'm looking at when I pick up the book.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then let's see, what else can I share? So book 2 is not out yet, but it will be shortly.
How far in the future are we looking at, by the way, while we're looking at the artwork here? Seems really far.
I don't know, Jim. What do you think?
In the future, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 21, 22.
So ways, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a ways away. But one thing we really wanted to do with the series was it's not really dystopian future. But what happens in Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead is that there's a and I could talk about this a little bit because it's not spoiling too much because you find out a lot in issue 1 at the start of issue 2. But basically, there's an Earth dimension 2, and that Earth is essentially dying out for a lot of reasons that you find out in the series specifically, and they want to come to our dimension and mine it for resources and make it a new home, and that's a big problem for the people in our dimension. That happen, obviously.
Yeah, we live here. Yeah,
we live here. Yeah, so there's a lot of there's darker moments. There's peaks and valleys, but at the end of the day, Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead, despite the title being a very sinister title, it's really a story about redemption and retaining hope. And I think we've really succeeded in that as far as the narrative is concerned. So it's not really dystopian. It's mostly about I guess escaping from dystopia.
Yeah.
And realizing what kind of life you have and how important and how grateful we should be about it.
They're wanting to come take our resources, and from the looks of things, the planet's not in that great a shape as it is.
Right.
But it's still getting right along. I mean, it still looks like there's Diez de la Muerta taking place here.
That's right.
Yep.
So people are adapting. Yeah, people are adapting as we do. More or less, we didn't want Earth 1 to look like it's spiraling out of control, but just overdeveloped. We take a lot of influences from Blade Runner, of course. Yeah. How could you not?
That's what I was thinking when I was looking at it.
And of course, especially in the latest Blade. See, in the first Blade Runner, you thought like, "Wow, this does look sort of like just barely hanging on. This is a lot of people in one place." The next Blade Runner is like, okay, there are parts that are completely out of control, right? When the new Blade Runner goes out to find Harrison Ford and he flies over the wasteland, you're like, okay, there are parts of this world that are just gone. So we haven't really gotten to that part yet in our story, really, because as you see here, this is the pyramids of Giza. And Cairo City has turned into a huge sprawl. So this obviously is not there if you look at a skyline of Cairo. And actually we've called this Giza City in our book. So it becomes this huge Middle Eastern metropolis that just sprawls hundreds of miles. So,
with the pyramids.
240 miles of just nothing but city. Yeah,
right.
Giza and Cairo kind of become one big city. And it becomes like the biggest city on the planet, essentially.
Right, but they've kept the old burial site off limits. You see, the city just sort of stops.
Yeah,
right here, and the old tombs and all that are still there.
You guys ever been to San Antonio, Texas?
I
No,
have not.
Sad because my brother lives there.
Well, your brother will attest to this. Then I went once, and the hotel said, you can go see the Alamo. It's just a couple of blocks that way. So I said, I'm going to go see the Alamo.
Right.
Now, the last time I saw the Alamo was on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So, I'm looking for the Alamo with, like prairie land around it. And
right.
And I'm like, well, it's going to be a long walk here because I'm in the middle of San Antonio. I walk 2 blocks over here, and here's this intersection of roads. And it's like the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, a Starbucks, a mall, a 2-story mall, and the Alamo, which is like, it's just this tiny little thing with some benches in front of them. I'm like, no, where's the Alamo? Yeah.
There's some big desert fortress, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures like that, like the pyramids. There's a lot of gift shops around there, but whenever you see like pictures of them, it looks like they're all up there in their magnificence and just nothing but desert around them. But yeah, there's like tons of development around them. It's really interesting.
I was very
that dichotomy.
I had to see the Alamo, and then I had to see O. Henry's house because I'm a writer as well. I'm a published author. And I saw, O. Henry's house. I have to make this sojourn for this. And that was in the other direction. I walked for blocks, and I'm like, there's got to be a big sign, O. Henry's house or something,
Yeah.
And I kept walking, and I kept getting more and more concerned because the neighborhood started getting seedier. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn around and go back. And I saw a police station. I said, I'll just go in there. Walked in the police station. I said, I'm looking for the O. Henry house. And they like look at each other and like, we've never heard of this. I'm like, no, it's like a landmark. It's not somebody's living there. It's just, it's supposed to be down this way. The O. Henry was an author. It's like, yeah, we can't help you. Fine. Okay. Thank you. I walked out this police station. I'm on the corner. I'm looking across the street, and right there across the street is this little cottage with a little plaque on a stick. I'm like, don't ever call 911 in this town. They have nothing to do with it. It's literally across the street from you guys, and you don't know where it is.
Wow. That's funny.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really surprising. It's just, we all look at history in different ways. And I guess to some people, it doesn't mean as much as it does to some of us,
I wanted to go back in there and say, okay, here's a copy of The Gift of the Magi. Read this.
They probably wouldn't.
Yeah. So, okay.
Probably not.
So anyway, back to the Butcher Queen and that story. Every story has, you talk about how you came up with the title of it and what the thoughts were on that, because it sounded cool, which is perfectly fine. Cool sounding titles are what we all live by. How did you come up with, I'm not going to say how did you come up with, because that's the stupid question. Harlan Ellison has told me I ask stupid questions.
It's not a stupid question to me.
Yeah. When did you first come up with the idea of Butcher Queen? What was it that you saw or read or looked at and said, oh, hey, what if? And went from there.
It was actually, it had nothing to do with science fiction or anything that I saw or read. I had gone through a personal situation with my family, and I said something I shouldn't have said, that kind of a thing, and I had a lot of regret about it, and I began thinking about this, and you're a writer as well, so you know that when something personal happens to you, it filters through all kinds of things. It filters through your experiences. It filters through the things that influence you, and everything else. And for some reason, I thought of this character, and it was definitely a female character who makes this giant mistake that kind of shakes the foundation of sort of her ethics and what she built her future on. And the mistake she makes just blows apart all that kind of stuff. And it became about this detective, Sid Kiowa, sometime in the future, not too far, not too distant, but in the future. And what happens is her partner, Caleb Stanzi, just give you the short version of it here. He goes undercover to this cult, and he disappears. No one has heard from him or anything else. Against her order, she goes to find him, and she finds him, and something awful has happened to him. And she basically loses her mind. And for that, she leaves the force. She's pursued by law enforcement. And basically, she has a complete nervous breakdown. And she basically has to find her way back from that to rediscover her humanity and, make it her life's mission to help people. gain that stuff back, that important stuff that she lost. So the whole story really came from this very, very personal situation that happened to me. It had nothing to do with science fiction, you know.
Well, we take our inspirations as they hit us. I can definitely relate to that. I'm always like, when I do that, I'm like, I wonder if they're going to know that's them.
Yeah.
She's surrounded herself with a crew. I'm guessing it's a crew. Again, I'm coming in late. It appears to me like a ship crew, like they've got a ship and this is her band. I don't know. Maybe there's no ship at all. So
there was a ship in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're traveling companions.
Yeah, but they get scooped up in this one by in the end of the first book. You see that an agency finds them and recruits them, and they don't really have an option. So recruiting is a weak word, but so they don't really get to have that sort of Blues Brothers car ship. Cowboy Bebop for the anime fans out there. They don't have a Bebop to roll around in, but they did in the first one. So this time they're sort of joining forces with a larger group, and then things just go so bad anyway that it spirals out of control. So
well, before I get too deep into this, the question has arisen in the chat. Where can we get the books? Now, I'm going to tell you this is from the guy who pretty much contributes to every crowdfunding thing we put up here. So
cool.
If you have a crowdfunder, now is the time to show it.
Not anymore. We will for the next one. So you missed this one, but luckily this is for sale everywhere you buy comic books. And of course, Comixology and everywhere else. So
here you go, Bap. I picked up Butcher Queen.
Yep.
Planet of the Dead #1 yesterday at my comic shop. So they are on shelves. If your guy doesn't have it, he can get it, or he should
get it.
Yeah, you can actually. It's actually not, the new series isn't on Comixology yet. They usually wait for that after the print one comes out. But you can get it at red5comics.com, or you can just Google any of your local comic shops, and you can see that they have it in stock. And it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, if you don't want to go to the shop, you can get it online still. But
well, that would be a great service. They've got the find a comic shop locator kind of deal where you put in your zip code.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine if you could put in your zip code and a title, and everybody's inventory was in some sort of a database? Like, I'm looking for this book. Oh, they have it over here.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. I would love that.
That would probably only work if every comic book shop in the country used the same operating system or something like that. Yeah.
It'd be tough, but it's cool.
That would be great.
For their data.
Maybe in 2120 they'll have that.
Exactly. So I was going to ask, the whole point of asking about the crew was how she came across them and what they do together. Why does she join with them to accomplish the goal that she's setting out to do, to become a better person?
Well, the events of the past screwed her up so bad that the way to make up for her mistakes is to help people. So she stumbles into Rags. Well, actually, Rags pulls her out of that Bebop. The ship crashes, and Rags pulls her out of it, brings her back to health, and then she ends up saving him at the same time. So they sort of join up that way, and then so they're the original crew, the two of them. And again, this is in the prequel book, so if you pick up the trade, you get all this.
Yep.
And then Avina, our like 7 foot tall goblin, goblin woman, is their first client. So they got a mysterious message like, "Hey, come help me," and they extracted her from a research facility. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't quite a research. But anyway, she was being experimented on. So they rescued her, and then through the course of the first book, they keep saving her over and over again, and then she just sort of sticks around. So, and then the real joy Jim had with writing Planet of the Dead was to create our fourth crew member, Dagger, who is this sort of whiz kid that makes first contact and then quickly becomes part of the crew. So. Yeah, that's Rags there. He's in that when you meet him, he's sort of a cobbled together, patched up cyborg. And then as the series progresses, I put him in newer cybernetics and newer clothes, so he looks a little more fashionable.
He levels up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the trade right there.
Yeah, that's the cover for the trade you just saw.
This was the right here. So this is the first 4 issues, Black Star City, Volume 1.
First 4 issues and 2 backstories and supplemental material and a cover gallery and behind the scenes notes from us. It's quite a collection.
Okay, so here are the 3 main characters that I saw.
Yep, that's right.
We've got Kiowa here. This is Braggs. This is the empath who is decidedly alien. There's no cyborg guy could still be human, but built up. Where is this guy from? Because he's not human.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So, Raj is a droid pilot put together of all kinds of different parts and everything else. But Avina is from a planet that came to Earth for refuge. So the whole first series is about these off-worlders that are coming to planet Earth for asylum, essentially, because their planets are at war and they're needing to escape that. And Earth has divided into kind of 2 factions as far as their perspective. Off-worlders don't belong here, and they're not welcome. And you have your groups that say, no, they are welcome. This is what we need to do. We need to take in these people and help them out, because we're all in this together, kind of a thing. And Sid Kiowa is thrust right into the middle of this because Avina, who has these empathic powers, as you referenced, she escapes this facility that captured her, and she calls Sid for help because she knows the word is out that Sid is a mercenary, and she wants Sid's help, and so Sid does help her, and they discover that there's this group called the Overseers, who are these really, really kind of extremist terrorist collective of this just terrible people who want to take these off-worlders, these aliens, and use them for experimentation, but also aesthetically change them to make them more human-looking and less offensive to those who wish to buy them as slaves.
Oh,
so
well.
It's a very layered book, and there's a lot we had to get into 4 issues. But I think Ben and I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to tell the story and get those layers in and have it not be complicated or convoluted. And so that's the first series. The new series, Planet of the Dead, is a different animal. It's 2 years later, and just a different kind of story altogether.
So yeah, in 2 years, we assimilate pretty quickly to things. I mean, it's been 9 months, and wear your mask when you go out. It's
yeah, right. Yeah,
you wouldn't go out without your mask now any more than you'd go out without pants.
Yeah.
But so
some of us.
Oh yeah, I've been known to check the mail once or twice. But.
You don't know Ben that well.
That's the only way to draw, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, podcasting's totally different. I'm indoors. I just don't stand up in front of people.
Stand up. Come on. Let's see what's going on there.
Yeah, it's very Batman.
Yes.
There's no Jeffrey Toobin going on here. But in 2 years, the world would probably assimilate to an alien culture being part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But at the same time, if they find out, and I'm betting obviously the general populace is not aware that there are multiple dimensions. They barely just, come to grips with the fact that there are life on other planets.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm. That would probably re-spark the old xenophobia and oh, hell no, not again.
It does. It does to some extent. You see some of that actually at issue 2. But that was, now that we established that world in the first series, we reference it in the new one. But the story really is about these 2 different dimensions and what it means to take care of the people and the world around you, and again, not take it for granted. That's really the thematic thread line that goes through the whole new series.
So, do you see an end to this saga? I mean, do you have an end point oh yes, okay, she's achieved redemption, happy ending, close the door on it? Or is this going to be like an open world where she's just constantly going on adventures? Please say yes. And you just have multiple stories that keep coming out of this environment.
I feel like she's pretty redeemed after the first book. Probably halfway through the first book, to be honest. She's on the path and all that. Though the beginning of this series sort of puts that in concrete, I think. I think the way we've got it set up is that it can always continue. It's just whether or not we can or just will at this point, because we always have, our brains are bags of squirrels, right? We always have so many like things going on and stories to tell. Not that squirrels are known storytellers, but like we always have more stories to tell. So if it doesn't happen right away, I could definitely see it happening again. It's and I actually, Jim keeps rewriting the fourth book, so I don't actually know how it ends, but I imagine he's going to leave it pretty open ended.
Yeah, there's one point, there's one aspect of her redemption that the whole second series hinges on, actually. And you find out what that is at the end of the first issue. Basically, I could probably say this.
The book's out. Sure.
Yeah, the book's out. So what happens is they make Sid a deal, that this larger organization, this sort of subsidiary of the government, the secret office, where basically for decades, this is where retired government people would go to spend their last few years. It was called the Interdimensional Task Force, and nothing ever really happened until they discovered a portal and increasing activity that came from it. And so that's how this task force was formed. And basically they know about Sid's history with someone involved in this other dimension, and they make her deal, and they basically say, if you help us out with this investigation and hopeful resolution, we will remove your record, your all these warrants for your arrest, and you can start over again. So she's all over it, because that's the one piece that is still on her shoulders, and if she can do this, that will happen. If she cannot do this,
the saga continues.
Well, it gets a lot worse, but there is I'm really happy with the way this series ends. And depending on how things go, there's actually something else we're going to be working on probably together for our next project. But there is a third Butcher Queen series that I have in mind, where it takes place in a completely different galaxy altogether. So, but if with this fourth series, I do have this really short story that takes place 40 years in the future, when Sid is an older person. It's my dog. Sorry.
Sounds like the pizza just showed up.
But for the trade of this second this series that's coming out right now, that'll come out next year, there's a short story that I wrote that's a really, really great old lady Sid Kiowa story. It's a short one, but so yeah, the possibilities are endless. As a writer, I really enjoy writing these characters. They're like my friends now. Sid Kiowa, Rags the droid pilot, Avina the empath, Dagger. They're such great people to hang out with, and we were really lucky that we took the time to flesh them out, because, and it sounds funny talking this way about fictional characters, but I really do feel like they've got a really good chemistry together. Mm-hmm. The combination of these four characters really have something, and down the line I would love to explore it more, for sure.
Has anyone tapped you guys to talk about adapting it into something for like sci-fi or Netflix or anything?
We had somebody contact us that really wanted to help facilitate the process. They sort of fell off the face of the planet, but people do mention often that this would make a good adaptation. And I think, being at Comic-Con last year, Red 5 is all about trying to bridge mediums, and I think somebody at Sony does have our first issue. So it's out there. it's just a matter of somebody taking the bait.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much did COVID impact you guys business wise this year with all the cons being shut down or virtual, which is just as good as being shut down?
It's really strange. I had a pretty good year as an artist. I think everybody in my professional circle or personal circle like just huddled in and then just started buying comics and video games and stuff like that. Like everybody just started consuming, and I think this is a good year to just be a creative and give people some content, especially if you're out on social media talking about what you've got to offer and things like that. So I definitely don't want to come across like I've, done well during a pandemic, but it was pretty much okay. Psychologically though, it really affected both of our production. I mostly going to speak for myself. It was pretty hard on month 3 when it really started to get to us. It was really hard to just create, especially not being able to go to school because I'm a teacher as well. So going to school was sort of my nice mental break. Going to the gym with my family was a nice mental break. So not leaving the house for weeks. The battery in my car died. I didn't because I wasn't driving so yeah, being stuck inside and not having any of my outlets and all that stuff really affected my creativity. Hard. It took me like 3 months to make the first book or something like that. It was crazy.
It wasn't good when you're living in a dystopia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me a long time to make the first book and it kind of set me back, but I'm back on top of it. And I opened a gym in my garage and I have clients and we're teaching back at campus again, even though half my students are at home. So we're finding our new normal, but finding that normal was pretty rough psychologically. So
we adapt.
Yeah. My main thing was it's, conventions is where you meet the people that read the books. Mm-hmm. You can meet them face to face. We would do more signings when a book would come out, and it's so important to promote the book. We're actually doing one.
This year was going to be our debut at San Diego. We had plans. We had, some of us bought plane tickets and stuff like that. Oh. And this was going to be our big, like last year, it was like, hey, we're making a thing and here's the ash can. But this year would have been our big, like, here's the trade debut. So that was a big kick in the pants.
Yeah. But, you have to roll with the punches. My main concern really was comic shops. We all love going to comic shops. We all love thumbing through the issues and picking them up and taking stuff home. And I was really worried for a long time about comic shops, but it seems like a lot of comic shops got together, banded together, made a plan, and they're moving forward and they're surviving this. Most of them, it seems like to me.
Yeah.
And so we're actually doing 2 signings tomorrow. We're doing one in St. Louis. We're doing one in South St. Louis at Apotheosis Comics from noon to 2, and then we're going to be at Fantasy Shop St. Charles from 5 to 7. And we're actually hoping to go to Dave's comic shop in November and do a socially distanced signing there as well.
The rules in Venezuela, Illinois are a little bit more strict than they are in Missouri right now. But convention circuit here, we have Archon in Collinsville, which is a sort of or science fiction convention. I was all geared up for that because I just had the most recent Destroyer book. I write the Remo Williams series right now. I'm blessed to be on that. Warren Murphy.
Cool.
And then Critical Blast Publishing had just come out with their latest anthology, The Devil You Know, horror anthology. And I was like, yes, we're going to have such a table at this convention. It's in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks. I know.
And now, my day job folks, I've been working from home since March. So my day is in the basement at 7:30 till 5, upstairs for dinner, downstairs from 6 o'clock till midnight. All I'm missing are shackles to hold me to the wall here. Dungeon otherwise. But
I can relate, man. It's hard. It's hard mentally. It's hard to be disciplined to this new normal. There's so little flexibility, and for me, I have a similar situation that you do. It sounds like, and you just it's so hard to just keep looking at the screen. It's difficult, but at the same time, historically, people have had to adapt to worse things.
Yeah.
And so you just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, there's nobody in the streets calling, "Bring out your dad."
Yeah,
Right,
how
yeah.
short-sighted we are, right? Wearing a paper mask is grounds for revolt for some people, but
Yeah.
meanwhile, elsewhere, much worse. So,
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it didn't take long for other people. We have a show every other Saturday, the LCS guys show, and we started it with COVID in mind, because I just want to say, okay, how are comic shops dealing with that? So I reached out to a guy who runs a store in Berkeley, California, Fantastic Comics, Yule Carter, and then Dave Dyer at Cosmic Comics in Belleville, and then my old comic shop guy when I lived in Arkansas, Michael Tierney, who had a store in Little Rock and North Little Rock. I said, would you guys come on a show and talk about how you guys are dealing with having to shut down and everything? And it was interesting because California was complete shutdown. No one's allowed, lock the doors. This is it. Illinois at the time was, curbside sort of service. So Dave was selling comics out the back door of Cosmic Comics.
Yeah.
Little Rock had no shutdown. They had like 0.5% of cases. So there was no need to shut any business down. But Diamond shut down.
right.
So his store was open, but he had nothing coming into it new.
Man.
So he was selling all tech issue stuff.
Well, yeah, if you remember when it started, they thought it could come in on your packages. So they thought a worldwide distribution platform maybe shouldn't be distributing right now. So yeah.
But that's how we started this LCS guy show, and I forgot why I even started talking about that, because my mind got behind my mouth, and my mouth.
You've got squirrels in your mind as well.
Yeah.
I have rabid squirrels in my mind.
Even better or worse, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I miss the conventions where you go and you talk to people and you sign books. I don't like buying autographed books online. I like to sit down and say, I talked with this person and I held this book and they signed it and handed it to me.
That means a lot to a lot of people.
It does. It's just I got
and vice versa too. I mean, like for us, when we do those things, we love talking to people. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right? To talk to somebody about your comic or your book and have a conversation about it. That's why you do it. Just to experience that tangible impact you're having, with somebody. It's there's nothing like it. And being in lockdown, it kind of robs you of that experience to a great extent.
Yeah.
It really does. But this too shall pass.
Yes.
Oh, I know what I was talking about. We're talking about masks. And I had brought it up in our first show. I said somebody needs to get a hold of Fantagraphics or graffiti designs. Yeah, and tell them you guys should be making a ton. There you go. I said, you guys should be making a ton of money on Joker grins and Venom smiles. And they're like, yeah, somebody should print that up. And now everybody's just doing it. I've got a Cosmic Comics mask now that Dave gave me the other day. So here, take this. You got tired of looking at my little white paper face mask that I always wore in? Because it was the same one. I'm only wearing it so people don't scream at me for not wearing a mask. It's a fashion statement.
Is that a fashion statement? Yeah.
So
I actually prefer the paper ones. They're easier to talk through.
But every time I talk, it kept sliding down my nose, and then I pull it back up.
Yeah.
Your glasses too. Do your glasses fog up?
Oh yeah. Immediately.
Yeah, mine do too. I wear glasses as well, and it doesn't work.
I need to get a World War I gas mask helmet with the goggles. Now I can breathe and it'll be actually filtered, and I can see clearly. So
you get a big steampunk following.
Yep.
I'm sure I would. And then people would say, "Where'd you get that?" Because I want to make some of my own, and I can sell them. So, what comics did you guys enjoy before you started creating the comics?
I like the creator-owned stuff. I followed Sean Murphy before he started doing Curse of the White Knight. So I liked his Punk Rock Jesus, and he did The Wake with Snyder, and Chrononauts and stuff like that. I recently fell in love with Daniel Warren Johnson, who did Extremity, and then with Skybound, which is the Image subsidiary, and then he did Murder Falcon, which is probably my favorite book of this year or last year, whenever it came out.
Hard to tell anymore.
Yeah, I know. So I read all kinds of stuff, like Luther Strode back in the day, and Black Science and Low, and all those kind of things. I'll read one of the big two when there's like a big event going on. Like, I'm reading Swords right now, and the Metal Batman and stuff like that.
I said, when is not a big event going on though?
Yeah, I don't know what the event's going on. Well, I mean, the House of X and all that stuff was, and the Powers of X. That was a great series. That was probably one of the more recent events that really, really did well.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for the other day, and I couldn't remember the title of it, and I'm Googling Time Bros.
That's a great description. I heard that got optioned once, and then nothing ever came of it. So maybe it's still in production or something, or still in the preliminaries. But I heard that got picked up, which is pretty interesting.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Wasn't that a Mark Millar thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Millar, and then one of my favorite illustrators. So yeah. Although, I mean, if you look around my room, my favorites are, Spider-Man and the X-Men and stuff like that, and a lot of the big pop culture stuff, Godzilla and Gundam and things like that. So I sort of absorb as much as possible. And I'm a huge video gamer. I play almost every night. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your growing up comic book influences?
Gosh, growing up, my big thing was I was a big DC head growing up when I was a kid. Neil Adams' Batman was my thing. When I think of being a kid, I think about the 70s Neil Adams stuff and 70s Spider-Man. Those were my big ones growing up. When I got older, I liked a lot of the indie stuff, like Too Much Coffee Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Tick. I really enjoyed The Tick. And then some of my favorite writers now, I really like Scott Snyder. Brian Hill is really great. Tom King. Those are the guys that I really kind of look to and, try to, always work to achieve what I feel like is just a really incredibly detailed and rich level of narrative, so I really like those guys a lot. And like American Vampire, I love the whole series. Yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. It's either the really quirky, funny, independent things, or the just the kind of the big writers that I guess a lot of people are big fans of.
I haven't thought of Too Much Coffee Man in forever. I was like,
Never
him and Scud and Milk and Cheese.
I remember Scud though.
Yeah, Scud was awesome. But
Too Much Coffee Man. Okay, I know what that is.
Yeah. Sounds like you and I probably came up in the same era. I'm 53, and I've got 28 long white boxes starting right here, going across.
That's awesome.
Oh wow.
Of DC, and again, I got to go to conventions when I was in college. Being an IT guy, I created a database that would track who did what in every book. I mean, it was like
wow
tables. I could literally query it once Access came out, because I wrote it before Access.
That's amazing.
And I could say, show me everything between 1980 and 82 that George Perez did the covers on, where Adrian Roy did the colors for DC, but not Marvel. And I would get a list, and I'd say, okay, he's at the con, get these signed. So yeah.
You're speaking my language, man.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's my era.
Well, is there anything that you guys are working on other than Butcher Queen right now, or is that taking all your focus?
Man, right now it's all about Butcher Queen, Planet of the Dead. Like we were talking about earlier, with everything locked down and there's no conventions and there's not a whole lot of sightings going on. Right now we're kind of focused on making the series as good as it can be and promoting it, through social media and through kind people like yourself who have us on to chat about it,
Yeah.
So right now that's what we're working on mostly. I'm working on the next thing right now, just in a preliminary outline fashion. but right now it just wanted to really make Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead amazing.
Well, you're off to a great start.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm definitely looking forward to reading the trade paperback. And this will be on my pull list now. Dave, pull this from now on. You're watching, I know.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dave is great. I've known Dave for quite a long time.
I haven't known him that long, but he was my LCS guy before I moved to Illinois.
Okay.
I was mail ordering from him when I lived in Waco, Texas, because I would see stuff on his Facebook page and say, "Get this book, get that book." She's a political comic book junkie, so whenever she would see, this parody or that parody, like, you should get that and add that. That's how she invests in comics. So
interesting. Okay.
So when she saw, I think it was how the Trump stole Christmas. She's like, you have to get this one, call this guy in Belleville, Illinois, and then then I moved here and was like, hey, yeah, first time visitor, long time customer. He's like, what?
That's awesome. Yeah, I went to the store for the first time, Dave's store, I guess a couple months ago, and really cool place. He's like, Ben, you'll go there, when we hopefully eventually do a signing there, but they've got all the comics and stuff in the racks, but they've also got like a game area, and they've got like a TV you can watch movies on and stuff. It's really neat.
Cool.
Yeah, the coffee bar, and now the gaming area. Since he hasn't been able to have crowds in to do the gaming, he's converted that to a vinyl store. He's selling vinyl music. So something else. Cool. And of course, all the monsters are standing around. He's a huge Godzilla person, Ben. So he's got everything Godzilla, and in fact, he worked. He had something to do with the Godzilla toys in the 90s.
Amazing.
He was doing the painting for them or something.
Yeah, that's great.
So anyway, we've just about hit the top of the hour here, which is about as long as I try to keep y'all.
Sure.
Because I want to get back to writing and drawing. What else have you got to do? You're stuck at home, right?
That's it.
Well, it's Friday night, so we're gonna go. We're actually gonna go get some dinner and carve some pumpkins. Actually, so
that sounds like a plan. I'm gonna stay all night till midnight, and since my son can't go trick or treating, we're gonna just watch horror movies till midnight and freak him out. With that in mind, I put the link up in the chat. I'm going to add it to the description because the description below points to the old Kickstarter. This link takes them to the Red 5 website, directly to the trade paperback, so they can click on it and buy it there. It is extremely accessibly priced. I don't want to say cheap because that implies something else. But anyway, Jim, Ben, glad to have you on the show tonight. Would love to have you back again when you open your next Kickstarter. We're on pushing Kickstarters around here and Indiegogos. I don't care which one you go to, whichever one you like.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, we're just going to wrap the show up. So is there anything that I didn't ask that needed to have been answered?
I don't think so. Just the trade paperback is called Butcher Queen Black Star City. It's volume 1, and that's out now. And then Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead, the new series that just started, issue 1 just came out, and that's in stores now. And add it to your pull list if you can. I think you'll like it. I hope you like it.
All right. So everybody, you heard that. Get the trade paperback off the link. Tell your LCS guy to pull Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead. And